In a world where hustle culture collides with wellness warnings and workplace demands keep evolving, how do we stay sharp without burning out? How do we navigate the endless stream of wellness trends while actually getting results? This is the Work and Wellness Podcast, and I'm your host, Ange Davies. Drawing from my own journey of wins, stumbles, and honest revelations, I'll be bringing you raw, unfiltered conversations with experts and inspiring guests who've been there, lived it, and found a better way. Together, we'll cut through the noise and workshop what it really means to be well in today's workplace. No more choosing between success and sanity. No more sacrificing health for achievement. Whether you're struggling with burnout, searching for purpose, or simply ready to work smarter, not harder, you're in the right place. This is real talk about real solutions for real people. Let's get into it. Hello, friends. Welcome to the show. Today, I wanted to take slightly different tact for the show. As some of you know, my dad recently passed away unexpectedly, and it's been a really big shock. And like anyone navigating grief, I've had to figure out how to keep showing up for work while also giving myself the space that I need to process everything that's happened. So today I wanted to share openly and honestly about how I've been using wellbeing tools to really support my return to work. And my hope is that by sharing what I'm doing, someone else who might be navigating grief or some challenging circumstances, doesn't have to be grief, it can be anything in life, these ideas might help you as well on how you can show up at work, but also look after yourself at the same time. When something big happens, whether it's grief or illness, or really any big life change, it impacts how we show up at work naturally, because we aren't one person at work and then one person at home. We are a whole person. And so naturally, our work is going to be impacted when something happens to us personally. And it's completely normal. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to keep going as if nothing has happened. We don't want to show anyone that we're not capable of work. We don't want to feel like it's interrupting our work. And we want to, show people that we are also capable. And so I think what happens is we end up putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. And I know that I've done that previously. But for me, if I'm really honest this time around, I felt really torn, particularly at the start. On one hand, I wanted to keep the momentum in my businesses. And on the other hand, I was exhausted and needed to rest and still need to rest. And that tension, I think, is real for anyone who experiences any sort of personal challenge and is trying to show up at work as well. But I realized really quickly that I couldn't just keep pushing through on autopilot, and I had to let myself be a human first. And I think that's a really big shift, really giving yourself permission to not be okay and also not be operating at 100% and know that that's part of the process. For me, it looked like closing my Pilates studio for a week. Immediately, I texted and emailed all my clients to let them know that the studio would be closed for the week. And everyone was beyond understanding. So many people said to me, take more than a week, take whatever you need. And luckily, I didn't have any corporate workshops booked for that week. There was some serendipitous timing there. I don't know what happened because the days before and the weeks before, and then these following weeks, they are every week and multiple times a week. So that worked out, in that situation. So really being able to share with people that I needed to take a break. And I think the old me would have just not said anything and pushed through for fear of looking unprofessional. But what I found is that in sharing with people what had happened, the level of care and compassion that I received back was just phenomenal. And so it's okay to share if you're going through something. We're all human. We don't need to go into big detail, but I think just sharing with people because it allows you that compassion. And I really think well-being starts with self-compassion. If we're navigating something tough, the first step really isn't about overdoing it, productivity hacks, schedules. It's simply just giving yourself permission to be human in every moment. And I think, even for me, it's been a big lesson in, people have been so kind in wanting to take me out for coffees and catch up. And it's the first time I've really ever said, I'm just going to have to tell you on the day, depending on what my energy levels are like. And the old me would have booked in a million different things and been exhausted when I went. And so that's a big lesson for me as well. I think, when big things happen, it can feel overwhelming to think about how to take care of yourself because you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with all the admin that goes around it. So how do you then even fathom taking care of yourself at the same time when you've got all of this other stuff to do? But I've really focused on small practices, really micro habits, I guess, that ground me. And I use my focus of downsize, don't delete. So rather than completely letting all of my well-being habits go, I have downsized some of them so that I'm not putting as much pressure on myself, but it means that I'm still feeling good in myself. My well-being is still good. So, for example, coming back to teaching Pilates after my week off has actually been really good because it's created some routine in my schedule and it's given me structure and connection and a sense of purpose in this time as well. And all I've done is just reduce my schedule down a bit, removed any really late night classes and just really focused on looking after myself. But going back to a little bit of routine has actually been really helpful for me. Walking by the ocean, anyone who knows me knows that I love my walks by the ocean. And so I've been doing that every day. Whether it's for 10 minutes with the dog or going for a big hour walk, I have been doing that every day. And just being by the water really shifts my mood. I just did it now with Liam. We went down and did about an hour walk by the water before I recorded this podcast. And I found that really helpful. Time away from technology, I think, has been so important for me too. So when I go walking with Liam, a lot of times I'll leave my phone at home. He took me to Australia Zoo one day, which was amazing. I didn't look at technology at all. We were just out in the open, walking with the animals. It was phenomenal. Being in nature has been really good, and things like sauntering have been awesome because in those times there is no distraction and you actually have to sit with your feelings and allow yourself to feel sad or to process what's going on. I sort of think in a world of distraction, we often don't actually know how we're feeling, especially if we're going through something tough because there are so many things that we can allow ourselves to be distracted by. Now, I'm not saying from time to time it's not good to just be distracted and self-regulate with a good TV show or something like that, but it is really important to have some time away from technology. And then finally, hydration and time in silence have been really important for me. I have felt like my cognitive function is diminished just because of everything that's gone on. And even being 1% to 2% dehydrated can impact your cognitive function. So making sure that I'm hydrated, as weird as it sounds, has actually been really important for my cognitive function. And then some time in silence to keep me steady. And those things, just doing them every day. So moving my body in some way every day, time away from technology, getting into nature, hydration, have all been so important to me. And the research shows that small, consistent habits actually regulate our nervous system because they give us some sort of normality. They lower our stress hormones and they give us a sense of predictability so that can create moments of calm and certainty in a time of uncertainty. So even on the days where it feels overwhelming, if you're going through something, just anchoring into small daily things can become your grounding moments, which can be really helpful. I think there is a lot of subtle pressure to return to work and be back to normal, both from yourself, probably more from yourself, but also from society. But after something big happens, normal doesn't look the same, full stop, and it doesn't look the same for everyone. Everyone has a different new normal after something big happens. And one of my old colleagues actually gave me really great advice, and that is that the world is forgiving and compassionate when bad things happen, but it goes back to normality after time. So take the time early to look after yourself and to do what you need to do, because when things go back to normal, the world is less forgiving. And it's a harsh reality, but I thought it was really, really great advice. So in terms of my approach, what I did, and it's only sort of been 2.5 weeks. So I am looking at my schedule every week and seeing what can I keep, what do I want to keep, and what can I move out of my schedule to support myself. It is a really busy time in business for me at the moment, which is amazing. So I'm putting buffers around all of my commitments as much as possible to make sure that I'm really looking after myself and I can have that downtime. And that's really important to me, is even if there are a lot of commitments, making sure that there is downtime in between, time for a sauna, time for massages, time to go to the bathhouse, those sorts of things in between all of my commitments. And so for me, it wasn't really about snapping back into work. It's just about pacing my return in a way that feels sustainable, because sustainability is really important. And what I know is true is that if we don't start to process grief or challenging things that happen, we might think we're okay if we push them down and don't focus on them, but they will come up in the body afterwards. And that's why it is really important just to honor where you're at and be okay with that. Now, as someone who has previously been perfectionistic and so much of my worth is tied to my work, it's been a real shift and a lesson for me in softening and really just allowing myself to do what I need to do when I need to do it. One of the biggest sources of strength for me over this time has actually been community, which is really interesting. And for me, I feel like I am hyper independent. I think most of my friends and family would agree with that. And I find it really hard to accept help. And so what I've tried to really challenge myself with during this time is being more open to and accepting of help. And it has just been so heartwarming and phenomenal just to see the amount of people who have been so caring and stepped up and lent in and been so practical in the help that they have offered. And, connection is a protective factor. Studies show that it buffers against stress, it improves resilience. The depth of our relationships have been shown to be the number one predictor of both health and happiness. And so I guess my biggest takeaway from this time, aside from allowing yourself the space to sit in it and feel how we need to feel, is about leaning into community. And sometimes it's about leaning into and receiving support. And sometimes it's about showing up and being around people to be reminded that you are part of something bigger. And so that's been a huge lesson for me. And when someone offers something, accept it, because it's reciprocity from a perspective of, it gives to them because they're giving, and then it gives to you because you're feeling supported at the same time. So those are my ramblings. Today's episode's been a little bit of almost a voice note from me to you as my work and wellness community, just about where I am at, finding my way back to work, leaning on the important wellbeing practices that I've built into my life, and allowing space for rest is really, really important. So if you're going through something tough, or someone going through something tough, you don't need to choose between showing up or looking after yourself. You can do both gently in your own way. Each day it might look different. There might be some days where you feel good and you want to incorporate more work and do a little bit more, and there'll be days where you might not want to do anything, and it's really about leaning into that. And if you know someone who's going through something tough, showing up as their community, being there, reminding them that you're there, can just be so heartwarming and just make people feel seen and heard and important. So thanks for listening today. If something resonated with you or you feel like someone needs to hear it, please share it. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me on Work and Wellness. If today's episode resonated with you, remember, someone in your network might need to hear this too. Share it with a colleague or friend who could use these insights. I'd love to keep the conversation going, so find us on Instagram at Mind Your Grit, where we share daily tips and continue these discussions. And if you found value in today's episode, please take time to rate and review the show. It makes such a huge difference and helps other people discover conversations they might really need. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Each week, we're building a community of people who believe that success and well-being go hand in hand. You can find the notes, resources, and links from today's episode at mindyourgrit.com. This is Work and Wellness with Ange Davies. Your work matters, your wellness matters, and this is where it all comes together. See you next week.